The Galactic Council chambers buzzed with nervous energy as Admiral Zexthara of the Vorthan Empire paced before the massive holographic display. 300 alien species represented in the chamber watched in silence as red markers spread across star maps like a plague. The Devourers had broken through another defensive line. 17 colonies lost in the past solar cycle. The Admiral's voice carried the weight of impending doom. Our combined fleets cannot stop them. Every engagement ends the same way: total annihilation. Counselor Veltar, a tall crystalline being from the Nexus Confederacy, stepped forward. His body chimed softly as he moved, internal structures vibrating with stress. Perhaps we should consider evacuation protocols for the core worlds. Evacuation? Admiral Zexthara's tentacles writhed in frustration. Where exactly would we evacuate to? The Devourers consume everything: planets, stars, entire systems. There is nowhere left to run. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of translation devices, working overtime to convert thousands of different languages and thoughts into comprehensible communication. In the center of the room, the holographic display continued its grim update, showing another red marker appearing where the mining world of Kepler 442c used to exist. Dr. Myra Voss, the only human representative in the chamber, sat quietly in the observer section. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only 50 years ago, making humanity the newest and least influential member species. Most council members barely acknowledged human existence, considering them a primitive species that had somehow stumbled into faster-than-light travel. What about the ancient weapons protocol? Suggested a delegate from the Arachnid Collective, his voice crackling through mandible-based speech patterns. Admiral Zexthara's skin shifted to a deep purple, a sign of extreme agitation among Vorthans. The precursor artifacts are too dangerous and unpredictable. The last time someone activated one, it accidentally destroyed 3 star systems. Better than letting the Devourers consume everything, another voice called out. Dr. Voss stood up slowly, her movement catching the attention of several nearby delegates. She was small compared to most species in the chamber. Humans averaged only 1.8 meters tall, while most galactic species ranged from 2.5 to 4 meters. Her simple gray uniform looked primitive next to the elaborate biotech suits and energy field clothing worn by other delegates. "Excuse me," she said, her voice barely audible in the vast chamber. Admiral Zexthara's primary eyes focused on her while his secondary eyes continued monitoring the tactical display. "Dr. Voss, I appreciate your presence, but this is a discussion for species with significant military capabilities." Heat flushed through Voss's cheeks, but she maintained her composure. "With respect, Admiral, humanity might have something to contribute." A ripple of what could only be described as polite laughter echoed through the chamber. The Kalari delegate's feathers ruffled in amusement. "No offense intended, Doctor, but human military technology is approximately 800 years behind current galactic standards. Your species still uses projectile weapons and chemical propellants." "That's exactly my point," Voss replied, stepping into the aisle between seating sections. "Sometimes older methods have advantages that newer technology overlooks." Counselor Veltar's crystalline structure chimed with what sounded like skepticism. "Doctor, the Devourers have energy shields that can deflect particle beams capable of vaporizing small moons. They have adaptive armor that learns and counters energy weapon frequencies within seconds. Their ships are organic constructs that heal damage faster than we can inflict it. What could human projectile weapons possibly accomplish against such technology?" Voss walked closer to the central display, her boots clicking on the polished floor. 300 years ago, before humanity joined the galactic community, we went through something called the Corporate Wars, massive conflicts, involving hundreds of millions of soldiers across dozens of colony worlds. During that period, we developed specialist units for asymmetric warfare. Symmetric warfare? Admiral Zexthara's translator struggled with the unfamiliar human military term. "Fighting enemies with superior technology using unconventional methods," Voss explained. "One of our most effective unit types was called Precision Elimination Specialists. soldiers who could neutralize high-value targets at extreme ranges using kinetic projectiles. The arachnid delegates' mandibles clicked rapidly, their equivalent of dismissive laughter. You mean assassins with primitive firearms? I mean professionals who could put a hypersonic tungsten projectile through a target smaller than your compound eye from a distance of 3 kilometers in a crosswind. Voss replied calmly. The chamber fell silent. Most species had abandoned kinetic weapons millennia ago, considering them barbarically primitive. The concept of deliberately making difficult shots across vast distances seemed almost incomprehensible to civilizations accustomed to computer-guided energy weapons with automatic target tracking. Admiral Zexthara studied the tactical display, his brain processing thousands of variables simultaneously. Doctor, even if such soldiers existed, what relevance would they have against the Devourers? Voss manipulated her personal datapad, wirelessly connecting to the chamber's display system. The star map shifted, focusing on the most recent Devourer attack. Look at their attack pattern. The Devourers always begin planetary consumption by establishing orbital command. Nodes large bioships that coordinate the invasion. Fleet, the display highlighted. Massive organic vessels hovering above destroyed worlds. Each ship stretched for dozens of kilometers, their surfaces pulsing with bioluminescent control networks. These command nodes have one critical vulnerability, Voss continued. They're organic. Living tissue with centralized nervous systems. Our analysis indicates they have primary nerve clusters that function similar to brains. Counselor Veltar's structure rang like a bell. You're suggesting we somehow board these massive vessels and engage in close-quarters combat? The radiation alone would kill most species within minutes. No boarding required, Voss said, manipulating the display to show trajectory calculations. Long-range kinetic elimination? A properly equipped human sniper could theoretically neutralize the command node's nervous system from another ship or orbital platform. The chamber erupted in discussion. Delegates spoke rapidly in dozens of languages, their translations overlapping in a cacophony of skepticism and confusion. Admiral Zexthara raised one tentacle for silence. Doctor, you're describing an impossible shot. The distances involved, the target size, the defensive countermeasures. That's why I said properly equipped, Voss replied. Humanity has specialist soldiers preserved in long-term stasis for exactly this type of scenario. Elite precision teams stored since the corporate wars ended. Preserved soldiers? The Admiral's skin shifted to pale green curiosity mixed with concern. Voss nodded. The Treaty of New Geneva required all human military forces to stand down at the end of the corporate wars, but certain specialist units were placed in cryogenic suspension instead of being disbanded. Insurance against future existential threats. How many? Asked the Cullery delegate, feathers settling as his amusement faded. 47 complete precision teams. Each team consists of 3 soldiers, a primary shooter, a spotter coordinator, and an equipment specialist. All volunteers who underwent extensive genetic optimization and neural enhancement during the war. The chamber went dead silent. Genetic optimization was forbidden by galactic law. The practice had led to devastating wars, centuries before humanity reached space. Neural enhancement was even more taboo. Considered a form of technological slavery by most civilized species, Admiral Zexthara's skin cycled through several colors before settling on deep orange serious contemplation. Doctor, what you're describing sounds like... He paused, searching for appropriate words. Enhanced soldiers. Modified humans designed specifically for killing. Enhanced soldiers designed specifically for protecting human colonies from extinction, Voss corrected. They volunteered for modification because conventional forces couldn't handle certain threats during the corporate wars. Counselor Veltar chimed discordantly. The ethical implications of awakening genetically modified killing machines... The ethical implications of letting the Devourers consume every living thing in the galaxy, Voss interrupted. Her voice carrying steel, seemed significantly worse. Admiral Zexthara studied the tactical display showing Devourer fleet movements. 17 red markers representing dead worlds. Countless billions of lives lost. His decision-making matrix calculated probabilities and found every conventional option, leading to total defeat within 6 months. Assuming we authorize this ... he said slowly, what would you need? A fast ship capable of reaching Sol System, Voss replied. Authorization to access the Titan facility where the teams are stored. And 3 days to wake them up and brief them on current technology. 3 days? The Arachna delegate's mandibles clicked skeptically. To prepare soldiers who've been asleep for 3 centuries to fight an enemy they've never encountered? Voss smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. Admiral, you clearly don't understand what we built during the corporate wars. These aren't ordinary soldiers. They were designed to adapt, to learn, and to accomplish in posse. The journey to Sol System took 18 hours aboard the Vorthan stealth cruiser Silent Depth. Dr. Voss spent most of the trip in the ship's medical bay, studying 3 centuries of accumulated data on her tablet while Admiral Zexthara's medical team prepared revival equipment that could work with human physiology. I must admit, Admiral Zexthara said, joining her in the medical bay as they approached Saturn's orbit. I'm curious about your enhanced soldiers. Our records indicate humans discontinued genetic optimization programs after the corporate wars ended. Voss looked up from her tablet, noting the Admiral's skin tone had shifted to pale blue, indicating scientific curiosity mixed with apprehension. We didn't discontinue them because they didn't work. We discontinued them because they worked too well. Meaning a single enhanced team could eliminate entire enemy command structures in less than 6 hours, Voss replied. When warfare becomes that efficient, it stops being warfare and starts being execution. The Admiral's tentacles curled thoughtfully. Yet you're willing to wake them now. The Devourers aren't human, Voss said simply. Different rules apply. Titan Station hung in Saturn's orbit like a massive gray cylinder, its hull scarred by 3 centuries of micrometeorite impacts. The facility had been abandoned except for automated maintenance systems since the Treaty of New Geneva. No active staff, no regular supply runs. Just computer systems maintaining hundreds of cryogenic preservation units. Atmospheric composition acceptable for human habitation, reported the ship's science officer. A multi-armed Kaleri named Svendel. Though the oxygen levels are lower than current human standard. The enhanced soldiers won't mind, Voss replied, reviewing facility schematics on her tablet. They were designed to operate in hostile environments. The docking process took 40 minutes. Titan Station's automated systems had to be convinced that the Vorthan ship carried legitimate authorization codes. Finally, massive airlocks cycled open and the Silent Depth settled into a docking bay that hadn't seen use in decades. Voss led the way through corridors, filled with floating dust particles and the hum of life. Support systems running on minimum power. Emergency lighting cast long shadows between support beams that stretched into darkness. Admiral Zexthara followed closely, accompanied by his medical team and 2 security officers carrying energy weapons. Section 7, Voss announced, reading facility maps from wall-mounted displays. Enhanced personnel storage. The corridor ended at a massive blast door marked with warnings in 17 different human languages. Voss pressed her palm against a biometric scanner that had been waiting 3 centuries for this moment. Lights activated as the scanner confirmed her genetic identity and military authorization codes. Dr. Miranda Voss, Terran Defense Force Medical Division, she announced to the activation system. Authorization code Alpha 77 Damascus Crown. Identity confirmed, replied an artificial intelligence with a distinctly human voice. Welcome back, Doctor. How may I assist you? I need to wake Enhanced Team Delta 7, Voss said. Priority revival, full combat preparation. Understood. Team Delta 7 shows optimal preservation status. Estimated revival time, 4 hours, 37 minutes. Shall I begin the process? Admiral Zexthara stepped forward. Doctor, what exactly will we be dealing with when these soldiers wake up? Voss studied the facility schematics appearing on nearby displays. 3 humans who volunteered to become something more than human in order to protect humanity. They're probably going to be confused, disoriented, and potentially aggressive when they first wake up. Potentially aggressive? The Admiral's skin shifted toward purple. Admiral, they went to sleep expecting to wake up to fight for human survival, Voss explained. Finding aliens standing over their revival pods might trigger defensive responses. The AI system interrupted. Dr. Voss, shall I begin standard revival protocol or enhanced combat activation? What's the difference? Admiral Zextara asked. Standard revival takes 6 hours and includes full psychological adjustment therapy, Voss replied. Enhanced combat activation takes 4 hours and assumes they're waking up for immediate deployment. Enhanced activation, she told the AI. Confirmed. Beginning enhanced revival sequence for Team Delta 7. The blast door opened with a rumble that seemed to shake the entire station. Beyond lay a chamber filled with rows of cylindrical preservation units, each one large enough to hold a human body. Status lights blinked green on most units, indicating successful preservation. A few showed red lights equipment failures over the centuries. Unit Delta 7 Alpha, successful preservation for 297 years. 4 months, 18 days, the AI announced. Unit Delta 7 Beta, successful preservation. Unit Delta 7 Gamma, successful preservation. 3 preservation units in the center of the chamber began glowing with internal light as revival systems activated. Voss approached the first unit, watching readings scroll across display screens built into its surface. Enhanced metabolic acceleration active. Neural pathway reconstruction at 97% efficiency. Genetic stability optimal. The AI continued its report as machinery hummed to life throughout the chamber. Admiral Zexthara studied the nearest preservation unit with growing unease. Doctor, their bio readings are ... unusual. How so? Heart rate currently at 160 beats per minute, but dropping steadily. Brain activity shows patterns I've never seen in any known species. And their body temperature is rising to levels that should be lethal. Enhanced physiology, Voss explained. Their bodies run hotter and faster than baseline humans. It's part of the optimization package. The first preservation unit cycled through its final revival phase. Warning lights flashed as internal atmosphere shifted from preservation gas to breathable air. The cylindrical container split along its length with a soft hiss of equalizing pressure. Inside lay a human male, approximately 30 years old, with close-cropped black hair and skin marked with fine surgical scars along his temples and spine. His eyes opened suddenly, pupils contracting as they adapted to light levels. Delta 7 Alpha online, he announced in a calm voice, sitting up smoothly despite having been unconscious for 3 centuries. Status report. Admiral Zexthara stepped backward involuntarily. The human's movements were too fluid, too controlled. Normal humans needed time to recover from long-term medical procedures. This soldier had gone from unconsciousness to full alertness in seconds. Sergeant Marcus Chun, Voss read from the unit's identification plate. Team Leader, Enhanced Precision Strike Unit Delta 7. Chun turned toward her voice, his gaze sharp and calculating. Dr. Voss, I remember you from the pre-deployment briefing. His eyes shifted to Admiral Zexthara and the alien medical team. Hostile contact? Negative, Voss replied quickly. Allied forces? You've been in stasis for almost 3 centuries. The situation has changed significantly. The second and third preservation units opened simultaneously. A woman with auburn hair and a man with extensive cybernetic implants along his left arm emerged with the same unnaturally smooth movements. Delta 7 Beta online, announced the woman, scanning the chamber with eyes that seemed to track multiple targets simultaneously. Corporal Sarah Martinez, spotter and coordination specialist. Delta 7 Gamma online, said the man with cybernetic implants. Private Jacob Torres, equipment and technical specialist. All 3 soldiers stood in perfect formation despite having been unconscious moments before. Their eyes moved constantly, cataloging threats, escape routes, and tactical positions. Admiral Zexthara realized that each soldier was analyzing him as a potential enemy target. "Soldiers," Voss said formally, "I need you to listen carefully. Humanity is now part of a galactic civilization. These are our allies. We're facing an extinction-level threat that requires your specific skills?" Sergeant Chun nodded once. "Understood. Brief us." Voss activated her tablet, projecting holographic displays into the air between them. Star maps appeared showing Devourer fleet movements and destroyed worlds. The enemy calls themselves Devourers. Organic ships, adaptive technology, they consume entire planets. Our new allies have tried conventional warfare for 3 years with 0 success. Corporal Martinez studied the tactical data, her enhanced neural implants processing information at superhuman speed. Energy weapons? Completely ineffective. They have adaptive shielding, kinetic weapons? Private Torres asked. Abandoned as primitive by galactic civilization approximately 2,000 years ago. The 3 soldiers exchanged glances. Some form of high-speed communication passed between them, probably through their neural enhancement systems. Mission parameters? Sergeant Chien inquired. Voss expanded the holographic display to show Devourer command ships. Long-range precision elimination of enemy command nodes. Living targets, organic nervous systems, heavily defended. Distance to target? Potentially 15 to 20 kilometers in space combat conditions. Admiral Zexthara's skin shifted to deep purple. Did she just say 20 kilometers? That's impossible for kinetic weapons. Private Torres smiled, the first emotional expression any of the soldiers had shown. Admiral, our effective range for precision elimination in atmosphere is 8 kilometers. In vacuum conditions with proper equipment, we can engage targets at ranges limited only by target. The combined galactic fleet hung in space around Proxima Centauri like scattered jewels against black velvet. 200 ships from 15 different species, their hulls gleaming with energy shields and weapon arrays that represented the pinnacle of galactic military technology, and they were losing. Admiral Zexthara stood on the bridge of his flagship, Eternal Vigilance, watching the tactical display with growing despair. 12 Devourer bioships moved through the battle zone like predatory whales, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns as they systematically destroyed everything in their path. "Third Squadron reports critical hull breaches," announced the communications officer. "They're requesting permission to withdraw." "Denied," Admiral Zexthara replied, his skin cycling through frustrated color patterns. "If we lose orbital position, the Devourers will begin planetary consumption. On the planet below, 2 billion Centaurian civilians waited in underground shelters, hoping the fleet above could protect them. The Centaurians had been among the first species to join the Galactic Council, known for their poetry and artistic achievements rather than military capability. "Admiral," called out the sensor operator. "New contact approaching from Galactic North. Single vessel, human configuration." "The experimental team," Admiral Zexthara murmured, remembering Dr. Voss's confident words from 72 hours ago. Part of him hoped the enhanced humans could somehow make a difference. A larger part feared they would simply become 3 more casualties in a war that seemed impossible to win. The human ship. Precision was tiny compared to galactic military vessels barely 60 meters long, designed for speed and stealth rather than direct combat. It carried no visible weapons, no energy shield generators, no particle beam arrays. To most species in the fleet, it looked like a maintenance craft that had wandered into a battle zone by accident. "This is Sergeant Chun aboard Precision," came a calm voice over the communication channel, requesting tactical overview and target priority assignments. Admiral Zexthara activated his personal communicator. "Sergeant, you're looking at 12 Devourer command ships, each approximately 8 kilometers long, protected by adaptive energy shields and supported by hundreds of smaller biocraft. Our weapons have minimal effect against their defensive systems." "Understood. We'll need clear firing lanes and minimal fleet interference in our operating zone." "Sergeant," the Admiral said carefully, "perhaps you should observe the engagement first. Study their defensive patterns before. Admiral. Sergeant Chun interrupted politely. We've been studying their patterns through your sensor feeds for the past 3 hours. We're ready to begin target elimination. On the bridge, the tactical officer, a crystalline being from the Nexus Confederacy, chimed with what sounded like disbelief. Did he just say target elimination? Against Devourer command ships? The human vessel moved with startling agility, accelerating toward the battle zone at speeds that should have been impossible for its size. Its trajectory carried it not toward the Devourer ships, but to a position 15 kilometers away from the nearest target. Precision is stopping, reported the sensor operator. They're just floating there. Admiral Zexthara studied the tactical display with growing confusion. The human ship had positioned itself at extreme range from any viable target. Too far away for energy weapons to be effective, apparently defenseless against the swarm of Devourer biocraft moving through the area. Sergeant Chun, he called, you're in an exposed position. Recommend immediate, target acquired, came a different voice, female, perfectly calm. Devourer Alpha Prime command ship, distance 15.7 kilometers. Nervous system cluster identified. Calculating firing solution. Firing solution? The Admiral's skin shifted to pale green. At that distance? Wind speed 0, atmospheric pressure 0, gravity well negligible, the female voice continued. Target motion vector confirmed, compensating for relative velocity and orbital mechanics. The Devourer ships continued their methodical destruction of the galactic fleet, apparently unaware that something had changed. Their biocraft moved in complex patterns around their massive command vessels, creating defensive screens that had proven impenetrable for 3 years of warfare. All fleet units. Clear firing lanes bearing 07 Mark IV through 0-9 Mark VI, Sergeant Chun announced. Do not enter the designated zone for any reason. Sergeant, Admiral Zexthara protested, you can't seriously intend to attack from that position. The distance alone. Shot ready, announced a third voice from the human ship. Enhanced targeting locked on primary nervous cluster. Projectile velocity 7.2% light speed. Time to target 4.7 seconds. The Admiral's tentacles writhed in frustration. This is impossible. No kinetic weapon can. Firing, said the female voice. Nothing visible happened. No energy beam, no missile launch, no dramatic explosion. The human ship simply floated in space, apparently unchanged. 4 seconds later, the nearest Devourer command ship CONVULSED. The massive bio-vessel. 8 kilometers of living tissue and organic technology. Suddenly twisted along its entire length as if in agony. Bioluminescent patterns across its hull flashed chaotically. The hundreds of smaller biocraft surrounding it began moving erratically, their coordinated defensive patterns dissolving into chaos. Admiral Zexthara stared at his sensor readings. What just happened? Target Alpha Prime neutralized, reported Sergeant Chun. Command and control systems offline. Acquiring target Alpha Secondary. The Devourer command ship was dying. Its massive bulk still moved through space, but the coordinated intelligence that had controlled its offensive systems was gone. Biocraft previously under its command scattered in all directions, no longer receiving guidance from their mothership. Target acquired, announced the female voice. Alpha Secondary command ship, distance 18.2 kilometers. Nervous system cluster identified. Impossible, whispered the crystalline tactical officer. Nothing can penetrate Devourer bioarmor at that distance. Shot ready. Enhanced targeting locked. Projectile velocity 7.3% light speed. Time to target 5.1 seconds. Firing. Again, nothing visible occurred. Again, 4 seconds later, another massive Devourer ship began convulsing as its central nervous system was destroyed by a tungsten projectile moving at a significant fraction of light speed. 2 targets eliminated. Sergeant Chun reported. No defensive response detected. Continuing engagement. Admiral Zexthara realized his mouth was hanging open in a distinctly undignified manner. Around the bridge, his crew stared at sensor readings that defied everything they understood about military technology. "Admiral," called out the communications officer, "we're receiving messages from fleet units throughout the battle zone. Everyone wants to know what's happening to the Devourer ships." The third Devourer command ship died with the same sudden convulsion as the first two. Then the fourth. The human ship moved methodically through the battle zone, never approaching closer than 12 kilometers to any target, never showing any signs of weapons fire or energy discharge. Target Alpha 5. Distance 22.8 kilometers. Nervous system cluster identified behind bio-armor plating. Calculating penetration angle. Behind armor? Admiral Zexthara found his voice. "Their bio-armor is 3 meters thick. Tungsten penetrator designed for hardened targets," replied the third voice from the human ship. "Bio-armor density approximately 7.2 times baseline carbon steel. Penetration capability adequate." The fifth Devourer ship died. Then the sixth. By the time the human team reached their seventh target, the remaining Devourer vessels had begun attempting evasive maneuvers, massive bio-ships twisting through space in patterns never seen before, desperately trying to avoid an enemy they couldn't detect or understand. "Evasive motion noted," reported the female voice with clinical detachment, "compensating for irregular acceleration patterns. Target Alpha 8, nervous cluster acquisition requires additional calculation time." "Take your time," Sergeant Chin replied. Admiral Zexthara watched in stunned silence as the seventh Devourer ship died with a precision that made his advanced computer system seem primitive by comparison. The human shooters were compensating for target movement, distance, relative velocity, and gravitational effects in real time, putting projectiles through biological targets smaller than most species' eyes. "Admiral," his tactical officer chimed urgently, "the remaining Devourer ships are attempting to retreat. 5 massive bio-vessels, each one capable of consuming an entire world, were fleeing from a single 60-meter human ship carrying 3 enhanced soldiers with kinetic weapons. Target Alpha 9 attempting to reach minimum jump distance," reported the female voice. "Intercept shot required. Distance expanding to 27 kilometers. Extreme range," noted the male voice. "Projectile flight time 6.8 seconds. Target will complete 2 evasive cycles during flight. Prediction algorithms updated," the female replied. "Shot ready. Firing." The ninth Devourer ship died just as its bio-jump systems began charging for faster-than-light escape. The remaining 3 ships reached jump distance and vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only debris and the stunned silence of 200 galactic warships that had just watched 3 humans accomplish what?